Hello. I'm going to present a couple miscellaneous points on repairing 8-tracks. I'm going to start off with a situation similar to the one I mentioned before where the tape has come off the hub. That was actually a worst case scenario where the tape actually broke and you had to pull it out and rewind it. This one's a little different. As I'd mentioned before, you may have some instances where maybe you're taking your thumb and you're trying to move the tape and it seems to get stuck or it's binding, and as it pulls through you'll see a couple wrinkles there, and it gets tight. In the worst case it won't even move. What that usually means is that the center part of the tape, okay, here, has become raised and is actually blocking this section of the tape from coming out because it's raised up and it won't pull through. And as I mentioned before, you do have to open up the cartridge. There's really no way you can fix this without opening it up. So what you do is you'll open up your tape, you'll find where the offending raised section is, and before I proceed I want you to notice that of course the tape in its current state is balanced. You have the one side with the lubricant and the tape playing side on the other, and it's in one continuous loop with no twists as such like this. And this is what I call the balanced state, and that is usually the state where it will pull out freely from the center of the hub, yet it'll be taut enough that when it pulls out, see, when it pulls out it's actually pulling the hub at the same time, which is important for ensuring that the tape gets pulled up and wound around the hub. Otherwise the tape will get pulled in and it'll get jammed, and that can be a real problem. So what you need to do first of all is you need to get to that section where it's raised, and as you notice as I pull it, you no longer have that balance. You start seeing the tape get twisted, and again each time you pull it out it gets more and more twisted in several sections, and of course you can't play the tape like this anyway because it's all twisted. It has to have that one-sidedness. So you just keep going and going, and say the raised section is right here. Okay, so you've pulled it out, you've gotten the raised section down. Okay, now what you need to do is you obviously have to deal with all these twisted sections that you need to make uniform. Well, the way you can address that, it actually happens that if you pull on the outer edge, as I mentioned in the previous video, like this, while the center is stationary, okay, you'll see you pull it and you pull it, okay, until it gets relatively tight. But while you're pulling it, you'll notice that the tape is getting longer, but the number of twists actually decreases. Okay, you're reaching the balanced state. So you keep pulling until it gets relatively tight. And this is about where you hear a couple squeaks, not terribly tight, but just a couple squeaks. You pretty much reach the balanced state. And then you just need to start to manually wind it with your hand, like this. And you go around and around. And you just wrap it around the outer edge. It's kind of a pain. Make sure you hold it down on top so it doesn't fall off. It's like a domino effect. Once it starts to unravel, it'll keep going. So just keep holding it down. Wrap the tape around the outside. Just keep going around like this. Just checking the time here. And depending on how much of the tape that you had to pull out, that's obviously going to require the number of times you're going to have to wind it up. But while you're doing this, the number of twists decreases. So you just keep going round and round, and we're getting near the end. Now you want to keep your eye on the number of folds. You can see I basically have this side intact, and there's really only one or two twists in the tape here. So go around again and check it again. If you go too far, of course it'll twist in the other direction. So you want to find that balanced location. And of course it came off. So let's do that again. Okay, and I found it. So here you go. You can see the tape. It's hold a little bit longer, okay, but you have the inner surface shiny on one side and the playing surface on the outside, but there's no twist in the tape. And if you put it on a reel like this isn't necessarily the right one, just by pulling the center, you will notice now that it'll draw the tape in, to the correct tension. Get that off. And there you are. It's back to the correct consistency, and the hub is ready to be placed back into the machine and used again. Next thing I was going to talk about were the other types of cartridges to open. This one's a variant of the 3-tab cartridge, which you've seen, a tab here and here and here. This one, it looks like it only has one, but there's actually two. There's one right in the center here. These are an early form of the 3-cartridge version, and I think the reason why they revert to the 3 cartridges is because simply these edges kind of lift up a little too easily, and I guess that wasn't such a great idea. And there's two ways you can open these. One, using your finger, feel for the other tab. Okay, feel for the lower part of the tab and put your finger through there, or take a screwdriver and push it in. Okay, and then kind of push up on this side. Now start with the top one first, and you push this up. Okay, like that. Just push it up and lift. You still got the center tab. Now, sometimes some of these labels come off pretty easily, and you can avoid destroying the label simply by taking a razor blade, okay, and working it under one of the corners, just like this. Now, you got to be careful with these labels, because for some reason the laminate will peel off. If you were to pull the label straight up like this, okay, say this was the label and it's held down. If you were to pull it straight up like this with a 90-degree angle, it'll generally ruin and peel off the laminate. What you want to try and do is you want to kind of pull it flat. You don't want to lift straight up. You want to kind of pull while you're lifting sideways like this. See, I'm not going like this. I'm kind of just pulling up like that. And work your way around it. And this glue tends to be dried and it opens pretty easily. So you'll see as I pull it up, I'm keeping it flat. Okay, like that. And it just closed up. But okay, just kind of go like that. Work it around. Pull up. Okay. Good. Then take your handy jeweler's screwdriver, and now you can see what you actually have are two tabs. The one that you could see and the one that was under the label. So again, you got to lift up on both of them, push on the top one, lift up, and then push on the center one. And if you can't take the label off, just note that when you put your finger to feel for the tab, push to the lower opening part, because that's the part you want to push up. You're not going to be able to open it by pushing up in this section. You got to push down in the lower part. So feel for the lower part. Okay, and then just push up, and it pops right off. It's actually easier than the 3-tab one. So, and then to close it, you just push it straight down. Get yourself a glue stick like Uhu or something like that, or the tacky glue, and you can glue it back down. Okay, another type of tape here. I got 8 minutes. These are a real pain to open. These are the Scotch blank tapes. Actually, some of them are good quality, but if you turn it over, you'll notice there are absolutely no posts or holes or anything whatsoever. These are literally held down by 4 posts. Here, 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 and here, and one in the center. And it's simply just like a post and a hole type of configuration like that. And they have barbs on them, and I've opened some, but in most cases when I do, I end up ripping or tearing the plastic. These are almost impossible to open. I would take a knife, such as my army knife here, get the blade side, try to first work at opening up the front, pry it open like this, try to get it in to the front, and you gotta basically go around and kind of cut the side of it like this, okay, and you got to break this because these are literally sealed shut, and it's a real pain. And I found out, the heck with it, it's not worth trying to open that one. So what I do is I've decided I take the tape out from the front and I lift it up like this, and I hold it back with some small piece of masking tape like this, okay. And I'll basically go in there and I'll take the tweezers and I'll just pull this whole section. I'll lift this right up and it'll flex right up, and I'll just pull the whole mess of rotted foam and cardboard right out, and it'll come right out. Now to put it back, say this is one that I replaced, you do it in the opposite. You take a piece of cardboard like this, put it over the top of the tape, and then kind of just push it down, work it in, to push this edge down like that, and just kind of feed it back in under the front of the label, like that, and get it under the plastic section here, and just try and push it back all the way, and that'll generally be enough to make it work. And that works very well. Okay. Another type is the United Artists type of tape. Okay. These are kind of a variant of a 3-tab bottom post-mounted configuration, but also the label is also glued on, and that actually has a dual purpose, not only just for the label, but it actually holds the two ends of the tape together. So you actually have to put a slit through the label, or try to peel it off if you can, and then you need to do, like I did on the 5-tab one, you need to push up here while lifting on the front. Okay, I'm not going to open this one because I already did, but you push down and kind of lift up, and do it again, like that. And then, you push down the screwdriver and you work it from the front, and you'll see it, popped up. So here, actually, I raised one part up. These two are not hard to open. This center one here can be a real pain in the you-know-what. It has an extremely solid tab that locks it very hard into place, and you'll try and pull it up, but you really gotta feel the hole there, break the seal in the hole, and kind of push this tab and work it around, and you may end up going back and forth gnawing at this tab at the end, and you got to really work it out and keep pulling without trying to break it, but you may have to really work that thing out, and then finally it'll pop off. And then to reseal it, basically you take your super glue, you put the super glue on the respective parts, up on this corner here, and then some along the back, because remember the label was holding it down. If you no longer have the label, you're going to need to glue it down. And then I use these binder clips, these very large binder clips, and these are excellent. They're actually about the right width of an 8-track, and you just put them on, close them down on each of the different areas. And you can use this for any kind of tape that you have to glue down, just like that, and let it sit for, an hour, and then it'll be done. Okay. Finally, the last type of tape to open, I've showed you this before, it's another RCA. These are the later ones. These have no rivets, and much like the Scotch brand tape, these are sealed around the edge. Fortunately, you almost never have to open these because they have the metal type pads, and so there's really no need to open them. But if you ever had to, you get yourself either an X-Acto knife or a sharp knife, and you just have to, again, you have to slit along the seam, work it all the way around, work around the front, and then just try and pry it open as best as you can. Now it may break in some areas, but there's not much you can do about that. Okay. Finally, another thing is replacing the pressure pads themselves. Now I know they fall off once in a while. What you need to do is go to any fabric store, buy a piece of felt, okay, and cut little squares off about the size of the felt. For instance, like so. I'll cut one here. Measure about the same size as the previous one. Just cut off the foam. Take your tape to put them on, and like I did before, pull it out. Take a little bit of masking tape, okay, hold it down on either side. Yep. And then scrape off the old glue that came off because it won't work with a screwdriver. Just scrape it off. Take some super glue with a brush tip, okay, put some on the metal side, then take your tweezers like so, and maybe you can try and do a sort of a top mount like that, and put it on and hold it down, and then just press with your hand, and then do the same. Pull the tape up next time on this section and tape these sides back and work on the center part. Okay, and I'll continue this on the next video.